Good evening. It is Tuesday, January 21st, 2020 at 7 o'clock p.m. I'd like to call to order the Town of Sutton Select Board meeting. And if you would all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First order of business is public forum. Public forum is limited to 5 minutes per topic. Discussion or comments about town employees or agency members shall be avoided so as not to violate individuals' rights. Is there anyone here for public forum? I thought there'd be someone. Absent that, we'll move on to our minutes. We have minutes from our January 7th meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes from our January 7th, 2020 meeting as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. And we had an executive session from the same day?
Mr. Chairman, I'd also like to make a motion to accept the executive session minutes from January 7th, 2020 as presented.
Second.
We're covered.
Also a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Also passes 5-0. Our first regular agenda item is a special night, a ratification of a police sergeant. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With the police chief's recommendation, I have appointed Mr. William Jakes as sergeant for the Sutton Police Department. Sergeant Jakes has over 15 years of experience with the Sutton Police Department. I've also made this appointment pursuant to Article 2, Section 2.2 of the town bylaws, and respectfully ask the Select Board ratify this appointment.
Great, thank you. Chief, Bill?
Good afternoon, good evening.
Good morning.
Yeah, that was earlier. So we're here before you tonight, as Jim mentioned, to ratify William Jakes as sergeant. So a little history on Mr. Jakes. He started with our department as a part-time dispatcher in 2004. And within a year or so, we hired him as a full-time dispatcher. And he worked in that position for approximately 3 years until we promoted him to a full-time police position in 2008. And I'll keep it brief. I could talk for a little while on Bill Jakes. He's a great guy. He's been in the department for, as Jim stated, almost 20 years. But a couple of things that I'd like to mention about him. Bill went through the State Police Academy in New Braintree, which is probably about an hour ride. And without fail, every Friday for 23 weeks, I got a phone call between 5 and 6 p.m. And it was Bill Jakes. And he would start out the same way, whew, another week. And then he would go on to tell me, about his week and whatnot. And he would usually end the conversation in words similar to this: "Don't worry, Chief, I won't let you down." And I've heard him say that a lot over the past few years. So when this promotion opportunity came up, Bill was in line for the promotion based on the last process that we did. And, I think he had an idea it was coming, and I pulled him aside and probably had an hour and a half long conversation with him. During that time, I told him, or I kind of relayed to him, a lot of what I explained to you folks the last time on what we expect as a sergeant and what your duties are. And, we went on for an hour, and he basically ended the conversation with a statement that was kind of funny, but he said, "So you want me to do everything I've been doing for the last couple of years?" And that summed it up pretty good. He's been a great member of the department. He's had a lot of initiative in training guys and showing them the right way, and just generally being a mentor to a lot of the younger guys and some of the older guys. Because on occasion he puts myself or my lieutenant in our place and lets us know that we're headed down the wrong road or whatnot. So the best thing that I like about him actually didn't come from Bill. It came from his son, who, upon hearing that Bill was going to get promoted a couple of weeks ago, he said to him, "Dad, why don't you just go for that police chief job. He goes, that's pretty easy. All you do is sit in that office and hand out candy all day. So I don't know if Bill's been talking at home or a little bit. At least his son thinks that's all I do, so.
That may be accurate.
Yeah, well, it could be, right? So it was kind of funny. Ending with a final statement, there's a saying that goes something like this, that, you know, so-and-so's the type of guy that you'd want your daughter to marry. And I think Bill certainly belongs to that crew right there. I don't think we could find a better employee, and I certainly don't think we could find a better supervisor. So with that being said, I request your appointment for Mr. William Jakes as police sergeant.
Excellent, thank you. Would you like to say a few words?
First, I just want to let everyone know I'm honored to be in this position now. As Chief said, I started back in 2004. I was hired by Chief John Hebert as a part-time dispatcher, and you know, back in 2008, Chief Toll hired me when I don't know if a lot of other people would have given me a chance, and I told him back then, I plan on making you proud, and I'm still with that motto every day. I come to work every day, work hard, and want to make the community proud, my family proud, the department proud, and just keep plugging away every day, doing the same, whatever I need to do to try and fulfill that.
Excellent, excellent. If it's okay with you, we normally would open it up to some comments, so I think we'll do that tonight. Jesse?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, Billy, welcome. First off, I'd like to congratulate you on your promotion. I'm assuming that it's gonna pass. And I have a strong feeling it'll probably be unanimous as well. Don't wanna let the spoilers out though. Chief, I remember when you hear for Sergeant Fortunato's promotion, and you explained to us, as you alluded to earlier, of the process that you went through. And you mentioned that the candidates who applied were like a fraction of a point apart. So after you had that conversation, of course, you know, I did a little mental gymnastics trying to figure out, okay, potentially who are some of the other applicants, who are we potentially going to see down the road, and coincidentally, as it turned out, you know, Billy was one of the first names that I thought of. From what I've gotten to know about him over the years, personally, he exudes professionalism. And as you said, he brings that type of attitude to the department that makes it shine in the eyes of the community. He's respectful of members of the public. He's just a great positive role model. And I'll be honest with you, he's probably one of the few individuals that whenever I speak to people in the community, they never have anything negative to say. Just kind, nice things. So that being said, as I said at my start, I fully support this promotion. And I'd like to be the first of the 5 of us to congratulate you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to you both, and thank you for being here. I have to say the apple did not fall far from the tree. Your level of professionalism is outstanding, and you have a beautiful family.
Thank
and
you.
all of that speaks volumes about you and what you do every day. We're so excited to have you here, and you've joined a great bunch of sergeants, and we look forward to seeing you continue to make him proud every day.
Thank you.
So thank you so much.
Jonathan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome and congratulations. You know, it's such an honor to be sitting here and be in this position to ratify this and to have the opportunity to do that, and just to see the impact that you have on the town and your service to the town. And you know, my daughter's, you know, it goes even beyond just being a police officer. Even just like when you ran the you know, the junior police academy, my daughter still talks about that and how much she enjoyed it and what she got out of that. And that, to me, is just goes beyond even just the job of being a police officer. And I just really appreciate that impact that you have. So
Thank you.
congratulations and thank you.
Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, congratulations.
Thank you.
Second, Chief, when you were here earlier with Sergeant Fortunato, you mentioned how the sergeant position seems to be probably much more important than the chief position. And now the deal with the candy passing out, I don't
know how he's gonna do it.
Maybe we should have another meeting. But congratulations again. I know from the earlier meeting, the how rigorous the process is that you go through to get to this level, into this position. So I feel very confident that we've got the right guy in this position again. I know your family's very proud of you. I know they're probably glad that you weren't a lawyer. Or so I've heard. So are we. So congratulations and welcome again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations, welcome. You know, my colleagues said it all very well. And as you know, you're joining the ranks of a really great crew. We're very proud of the force that we have here. It's not at all a surprise to hear you say that I'm accepting a promotion to a job I've been doing for a few years. I mean, in a way, that's kind of how it works, is you get promoted into the thing that you've worked so hard to attain, and you get the job because you demonstrate that you're capable of doing the job. And by all accounts, you certainly have done that. You know, Chief, I think you already know this, but he also has quite a sense of humor.
Oh, yeah.
We were at the tour of the new police facility. Jeff and I actually were on the tour, and we were down in the locker room, and we noticed that there were locks all over in all of the stalls. And Jeff said to me, how come they have locks in a police station? So we asked, and without missing a beat, he said it's because sometimes we give tours. No hesitation at all. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. So, I was talking to Deb earlier and about how nice it is to have a hometown police officer be in the force and continue to develop and achieve within the department, and it's a great thing. So, we feel, I think, doubly satisfied that hometown guy's done well. So,
Thank you very much.
congratulations.
Thank you.
So, I think next I need to swear you in. William Jakes, do you solemnly swear that you will faithfully perform the duties incumbent upon you as a police officer in accordance with the bylaws of the town and the laws of the Commonwealth?
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Give her a hug. While our Sergeant Jakes is with us, I would like to make a motion to ratify his appointment of Police Sergeant William Jakes.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Jesse predicted it. It was unanimous, 5-0. Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
You're not staying around for the poll hearings?
The credit card
We
policy.
got a credit card policy. Come on.
Right, Zach.
Enjoy the rest of your mornings.
You bringing the coffee later?
Well, that's I gotta get to work and
Congratulations, Mom. Oh, so sweet.
Aren't you proud of Daddy? Bill, congratulations. So proud of you. Congratulations, Dad.
Have a good night.
Right, John.
Good night.
you guys have a good evening.
I don't think.
Oh, he really cleared the house.
I didn't know we had that many police officers.
Well, this feels more normal now.
It does, right?
Was it something you said?
All right, this This is not as fun, but next up on the agenda is, we have a draft credit card
They can't all be
policy.
fun, okay?
You have to try harder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This evening, Tim, come on up. We're going to be presenting the draft credit card use policy. The town currently has a Home Depot credit card and a Tractor Supply credit card. And we've been thinking about, you know, with this kind of, these cards out there, we want to make sure that the town is protected and that these employees are, these department heads are aware of the ramifications if anything goes wrong with these credit cards or any potential misuse, and, you know, lay out some guidelines. So Tim combined and worked with a number of other policies out there and came up with this draft credit card policy. So it's enclosed in your packet for your review. The idea is to just give the department head some direction. Recently, the police chief actually came in and asked for a credit card for use on Amazon. He told me that he could buy targets, shooting targets, at Amazon at like 1/10 the cost of the police supply depot, whatever the store is, and but he didn't have a credit card and he couldn't, you know, he couldn't purchase it. So, you know, that kind of was part of the discussion that Tim and I had, and Tim obviously did a lot of work on this policy. So it's here for your review. I would like it to get approved at some point in time to give the department head some direction. We do have, you know, a Home Depot card that's been out there probably as long as I've been here in town. You know, I wasn't thinking at the time of the possibility of misuse of this credit card, but the potential exists, and to remove or reduce that potential, I think a credit card policy where department heads sign off, they agree to this policy, everybody's on the same page, is a good step forward. So, it's for your review, Mr. Chairman.
Any comments you want to make, Tim, or?
No.
Okay, fine. Jesse won't say no. Any comments you want to make?
Wow, geez, I don't know about that one. Yeah, actually, I do have a couple of questions. You mentioned, Jim, the fact that there are 2 credit cards currently on record, Home Depot, Tractor Supply, contemplation of an Amazon card. I don't think that would necessarily be a bad thing. But are there multiple copies that are distributed to the different department heads, or do you keep possession of the cards?
The Home Depot credit card is in our possession, and they come and request it from Deb. So Tractor Supply is actually down at the Highway Department. Matt Stencil controls that. You know, in the meantime, before and if this policy gets approved, we're talking about centralizing all the cards.
Mm-hmm.
So the cards will be available at my office. Deb will hand them out, have the department heads sign it out. You know, a tighter control over these cards.
So basically, there won't be multiple copies,
No.
you know, distributed out there. Okay, that's definitely a good thing.
You know, ultimately, we would get, obviously, you know, we've got a whole accounting process in here where we, you know, have the assistant accountant follow up and make sure all the charges are legitimate. And we also have an audit provision that we will audit these cards every once in a while to make sure that everything's done appropriately. None of which we've been doing some of that, but, you know, this is a more comprehensive policy.
Yeah, to that point, for those people at home, both are referenced clearly in the policy.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
and I just want to make sure it's clear for everybody, you know, since I've been here, I mean, I'm not aware of any misuse of any credit cards. But to Jim's point, you know, we don't have a policy in writing, so this way, everybody understands the rules, we'll play by the same rules. The hardest thing is, you know, understanding that just because it's on a credit card, that's not the receipt. We need the receipt that goes with it, because otherwise, how can I check to make sure sales tax wasn't charged? And, you know, or, you know, there could be multiple items on a charge, want to make sure that they're all legitimate business, town of Sutton business purposes.
And,
So,
and
this lays it out.
right. Oh, clearly. There's also limits of $5,000 on the card, so it's not like someone can go out on a shopping spree. I mean, you'd catch them eventually, but you know, that's a way to contain it.
And, you know, feel free if you think that limits and things should be different. I mean, I just threw that out as a draft.
Well,
You know,
I think of the household policy we have with the credit card. Both of my kids are on my wife and I's account, and we tell them they can use it for emergency purposes. They can use it to buy gas if they're on the road, but they can't go buy coffee with it. You know, so again, in our own house, we have procedures, and I see that. I mean, I can't imagine these are going to be used every single day. I would imagine these are things that, okay, you need to get a particular valve from Tractor Supply, and you need it now. You can't wait till it's shipped in. So, I think you both, or Tim in particular, I think you laid out proper use. I see checks and balances contained within. I see oversight. And I see clear delineation of the fact that if it's misused, it's going to go back on to the employee, leading potentially to termination. So I think you both, you know, you dotted all your I's and you crossed your T's. So I don't know if there's going to be any suggestions from my colleagues to any additions, but at least as drafted, I'm comfortable with it.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Wendy?
Thank you. I just had one observation because it never occurred to me to use more than one credit card to split the cost of a transaction. So I think that's, you know, really important and that it should be involved in the policy. But, you know, in all honesty, I have a lot of confidence in our department managers, so I'm not really concerned about it. But I do think it's important to have it on record and to have them sign off on it. So I have no issues with it as presented.
Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, absolutely agree that having a policy is always important because at least it lays out what people can expect and what the rules are. So I support that fully. I think the one question I have is, you know, would it make more sense rather than having like particular store cards, just to have one card, so we're not tracking multiple cards, and we just have one card that they can use anywhere, you know, versus having a store card, so that you could use the same card at Home Depot or the different places that we use it, and that way we just have one card floating around. Just something I was thinking
Yeah,
about.
I haven't thought of that. It's possible. I don't know if there's an advantage to having, you know, the two different store cards, whether there's some benefits or not. I'd have to look into that, but that's a possibility.
Yeah, it's just something I was thinking
Yep.
about, because that way it's just easy to keep track of, you know, having multiple statements coming in and
Yeah.
just one open account. And then the other question I have is, so the statement, who gets the statement or the monthly, like does that come into you or does that go? So the monthly statements that if there are charges,
Yes.
does that statement come to you?
It
or-
comes into us
Yeah.
right now, and.
So that's another check and balance as
Yeah,
well.
and ultimately, the accounting office, Tim has an assistant, Darlene, down in the treasurer collector's office. She reviews all of the accounts and makes sure. And just to reiterate, I agree with Tim, we've never had an issue. And you know, the quality of department heads is top-notch here in the town of Sutton, so I don't expect it,
Yeah,
but
I think it's important.
It's
to,
there
like,
as a,
it's good to have something on the record.
right.
But I agree with you that I'm not too concerned about, especially you already have a check in place where the statements are coming to you, so if someone is doing it, you're
And-
gonna know right away.
And anybody that spends over, you know, even $100, they check with us first. Like, I'm gonna go buy some paint, and you know, I need it to do this, and so.
So it makes sense.
But, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this is the way it's laid out is a really good policy. Just to be clear, so that everyone can understand, we're talking about one card that's gonna be held within
Our
your
office.
as opposed to multiple card, each department head getting a card and.
Just one card.
Okay. And then the other thing which I was glad to see in here was there was a discussion about sales tax and just making sure that the individual, when they use it, know how to, you know, they've got an exemption certificate, like, you know, when the chief was looking to buy those targets.
Yeah, you know, and that's one thing that Amazon allows, according to the chief, is that, you know, if you create an account within Amazon with a credit card number, you can enter your tax ID number, so that's all pre-entered. So anytime you order, it's tax is not included.
Yep.
So,
Great, okay. Outside of that, I'm fine with it.
Generally speaking, everything that's been said is kind of right where I stand. The idea of having a policy, first and foremost, I think is the right thing to do. Just the more policies we have, the better off we are from a control standpoint. And so obviously, what I'm gathering from this is there's some minimum amounts of purchases we can make without having to go through some public
Yeah.
purchasing rules.
Yeah, that, purchasing of goods and supplies up to $10,000 is allowed without doing a bid process, although it is, they generally encourage business practices, smart business practices that make sure that you're not, just going with a single vendor because, you saw it online. But most of these purchases are well below even the need for, getting 3 bids.
Yeah.
It's just responsible business practices is the guideline of the 30B.
And at the end of the day, this is coming up because that's exactly what we're doing, is a responsible business practice. We're finding a place where we can buy it for less money. I mean, that's what people are trying to do.
Yeah.
So, the only thing of concern, just in what you just said the last time, is even though the physical card may be someplace, if you're pre-registered on Amazon with the card all set up, you don't have to have the physical card in your presence to.
It's true. At the same time, all the accounting measures will be in
Sure.
place and
Yep, I hear you. I agree with my colleagues. I think this is fine. This is a good thing.
Good, thank you.
So I believe we have a motion. If you'd like to.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the credit card policy.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Thank you. All right, we're on to the town manager's update. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll start with the FY20 budget update. The budget process is well underway at this point in time. We are kind of finalizing the preliminary budget as we sit here. I will present to the select board on February 18th, which is the second meeting in February. Finance and Warrant Committee has a meeting scheduled for tomorrow night. We have 2 reserve fund transfers. The first is for public buildings repair and maintenance for $13,972. This is for unexpected repairs to the town elevator, town hall elevator at a little over $5,200, and the town hall water system at $8,770. So a big hit to our repair and maintenance budget within town hall. The reality is town hall is getting older, and we try to nurse the systems along, but the water system went down, and there's really no easy fix. And John Kuchar is essentially our building manager, and he recommended we replace it and deal with the system. Great repair job and replacement, but there is a cost that went along with it. But it's great having John as our building commissioner as well as our building manager at the same time. So, in Norfolk Aggie, an additional student attended Norfolk Aggie, unbeknownst to the town. This individual essentially was, I think it was a homeschool student that went to Norfolk Aggie, so it kind of flew under the radar. The school department wasn't aware of it until they entered into Norfolk Aggie this fall, and then all of a sudden, then we got a bill from Norfolk Aggie and, another, $15,000,
So these are current fiscal year items?
they are. We'll also present the 5-year forecast to the Finance Committee, which we presented to the Board of Selectmen a couple weeks ago. The capital plan is done, the draft capital plan. I'll be presenting that at the next meeting on February 4th. It's a significant capital plan. It's over $1 million, but not much over. But it is. We did receive almost $3 million in free cash, and we don't appropriate any free cash in the operating budget, which is a long-standing policy. It took years to get free cash out of the budget, but now that we're there, now we have these funds to do capital repairs. And there are a lot of capital repairs. We're replacing the roof down at the highway barn, replacing windows down at the highway barn, which may be eligible for Green Communities grant money. So we've got a number of different items that we're approaching. But I'll present that to the board at the next meeting and for your review. Supplemental Chapter 90 appropriation. Governor Baker recently announced a supplemental budget that included an additional $20 million in Chapter 90 funds. The town of Sutton will receive an additional $46,000. Those funds, with the usual appropriation of $460 and the $200,000 in the capital plan, another, update on the capital plan early, is that I put $200,000 in for road repair. So that brings a total of $700,000 for road repair this year. Last year, we did $1 million worth of work with the $600,000 from the Capital Stabilization Fund, as the board knows, along with the Chapter 90 money. And this year, our plan is to use $700,000. So we're trying to stay ahead of the pavement management plan and still progress rather than falling back with just the Chapter 90 appropriation on an annual basis. The BRAVE Act of 2018. At the Select Board on February 4th, our Veterans Agent Carl Bradshaw will be in attendance to present the BRAVE Act. The BRAVE Act was adopted by the state and allows for a full tax abatement for Gold Star families. We'll discuss it more on February 4th, but there are 5 families within the district that Carl Bradshaw represents, all 5 communities, 6 communities now that he represents. There are 2 Gold Star families, essentially a parent that lost a son or daughter in war. Generally, right now, Afghanistan, Iraq area. We do have one person in the town of Sutton. I said that I wouldn't bring up his name. I think the idea in and of itself is worthy of discussion. Ultimately, if the board agrees, it'll go to Maytown meeting for adoption by the town, and a little bit of reprieve from all the pain that this family's been going through. But I'll present more on that on February 4th. And that's all I have for updates, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent, thank you. Jesse?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't really have much to say because this was pretty short. Thank you, Jim. Definitely appreciate the updates. I am going to put in one request. It's been a couple of years since Matt Stencil has come in to talk about the road paving plan.
Sure.
If we're going to be doing this extra boost to it, it might be a good time to bring some of the newer members up to speed in terms on how he makes the decisions in terms of which roads get treatment.
Yeah.
So if I could just put that request
Yeah,
in.
he was here last week, the last meeting, wasn't he?
Yeah, I realized, but he didn't talk about the paving.
All right, we'll have him in to talk about the paving. And maybe we
Thank
could do
you.
a snow and ice transfer at the same time,
Hey,
if
something
it
that
comes
works.
up.
That works. Hey,
Right now, we're ahead of the game, but,
Exactly. And as far as the BRAVE Act, well, I think my feelings on those who serve and their families are definitely clear to many people in the community. So I look forward to the presentation, but I know deep down inside, I'm already ready to support this because we have talked about this already. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Wendy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I look forward to, our budget presentation on February 18th, but the numbers I'm seeing now are generally pretty good. Little surprising about Norfolk Aggie, but
Yeah.
sounds like everybody was taken aback a little bit.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Yeah.
Very excited about the additional highway money. I think the community will be very happy as well. And I cannot believe at town meeting that the town would not support the Bravehearts Act.
Yeah.
I just can't even believe that. So, I hope the community really rallies around this family and supports them as they deserve. That's all I have.
Thank you. Jonathan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Jim. As far as the budget, I'm looking forward to just digging into the details of the budget, and this just goes to point how important it is to manage well, because unexpected things come along all the time that happen in my home and everywhere else, and so it's good that we're prepared, and this is not going to obviously, we don't really enjoy it, but it's something that we're prepared for and
Yeah.
we can handle it. So I think that's to be said about just our overall fiscal management. Chapter 90 money, I'm glad we're investing in the roads again this year. We could probably spend many millions of dollars and still be
Yeah.
behind the game, but at least, again, trying to stay within a reasonable budget to make sure everything else balances out. This is what we can do for right now, and I think this is a definite bump up that will help us. As far as the Brave Act goes, I mean, you know, these families have paid the ultimate sacrifice. This is a small sacrifice for the town to make in this tax abatement, so I fully support that. It just makes absolute sense, and you know, can't express my, you know, just what these families go through, and these soldiers when they lose, to pay the ultimate sacrifice for us. So it's a small token. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, Jim. Just a couple of questions on the budget issues. We have now 3 at Norfolk Aggie?
No, more than that.
6.
I think it's 5 or 6.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, one is graduating, and we've got, you know, some sophomores, so it'll be a few years. You know, last year we had 3 additional students attend, which, you know,
Yeah.
really surprised us all. But it is a public school in the town, and people have the right to go there.
Have you heard from BVT?
I have. According to Dr. Fitzpatrick, we have 1 fewer student attending BVT. Now, I don't know how much of an increase that's going to be, because I can tell you it will be. It's, you know, they tend to give us about a 3% increase every year on the low side. As you know, the high side is close to 5, so, you know, we have to wait and see what that number will be.
Okay. And I'm glad to hear about the Chapter 90 funds. Because there's certainly, you know, an ongoing need that we have. And the Brave Act, I'm very much looking forward to hearing from Carl on that. You know, that's obviously something that, just from the words spoken tonight, I think everyone is going to be in favor of that. So I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you.
So that's what I have.
Thank you. Jim, thanks for the update. I guess in the spirit of tonight's meeting, it's a short update, a short meeting, so trying to get Angela home tonight.
I realize that the longer the update, the longer we all have to talk, or I
Yeah.
have to talk, so
Yeah.
yeah, this
Yeah.
is kind of the,
That was your impetus?
no, it's just,
Look,
joking.
Angela's got a young kid at home that's not sleeping well, so she needs a little extra time.
I'm
so-
doing this for Angela.
Yeah,
okay?
there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, regarding the transfers, it's interesting because we go a lot of years and never transfer anything out of the,
Yeah, the reserve fund hasn't been touched for a number of years.
Yeah.
And, you know, this year, things just happened. You know, the Norfolk Aggie, no one knew, but the building repairs and maintenance, you know, I talked to John Kuchar early on, and probably a couple months ago, and I said, let's just get it done.
Yeah.
You know, he could try to, you know, baby the systems along and try to keep them going, but, you know, it would cost us the same amount of money, whether we do it now or later, and so we had the reserve fund and figured it was time.
you know, preventative maintenance is fine, but that's the nature of repairs and maintenance. You're always dealing with things that you don't really anticipate, so
Yeah.
it happens. It's just unusual for us to be in a position where this is gonna sort of deplete the reserve fund.
Yeah.
But I guess the opposite is true, since we usually don't touch it. The idea that having nothing left in it for a few months is low risk, so.
Yeah.
I mean, you just do what you gotta do, so.
Right. Well, you know, we do have other options. I mean, we
Sure.
can, you know, just run the budget in a deficit and do
Yep.
year-end transfers. You know, we have a number of tools, but this is the right way to do it at the right time.
Yeah, no, I agree. Regarding the Chapter 90 funds, I guess I have a couple of things to say. You know, number one, it's good that we're in a position right now to be able to contribute some additional funds. You know, as we know, the amount of Chapter 90 funds and the cost of doing repairs typically isn't enough to keep ahead of the maintenance schedule that we have. So I'm happy that we have some availability to be able to contribute some extra funding to this. And, you know, I think generally speaking with the capital budget, as you mentioned, you know, we've got some free cash and we've got some ability to do some things in capital planning. But those days won't be here forever. Last meeting, we talked about, you know, what the future looks like, and there's no guarantee that we're gonna have extra funds to be putting to road repairs or anything else. So while in the short run, we're able to sort of nudge ourselves ahead a little bit, that's great, but road repairs are gonna continue to be an issue that we have to think about and deal with as we look long-term, yeah, so. And as everyone else said, that was my thought exactly. I look forward to the next meeting and hearing from Carl Bradshaw, so. Yeah. Thank you for the update, and I think we're moving on to announcements, roundtable, and correspondence.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just food pantry list tonight. A relatively short food pantry list. Stop by, they're still pretty well stocked. But of course, they're always in the need for cleaning supplies, deodorants for men and women, toothpaste, toothbrushes, single packs of toothbrushes, detergents, both for detergent, laundry detergent, as well as dish detergent. And one interesting item that was mentioned to me, barbecue sauce. Apparently the last bottle of barbecue sauce left the pantry today. So if you're shopping, pick up a couple of bottles. I'm sure they'll appreciate it. That's all I have. Thank you. Yeah, that's an odd one.
That's good.
Yeah.
I have nothing this evening, thank you.
Jonathan?
Well said, thanks.
Joe?
I'm all set, Dave.
I am all set myself.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn, if that's all right with you, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.